Welcome to Who Knew. We are fans of the current series of Doctor Who, and here we discuss our likes, dislikes, and insights into the modern regeneration of the show. Subscribe, review, and listen to us on iTunes and Stitcher, or our YouTube channel, youtube.com/WhoKnewPodcast. All our episodes are on whoknewpodcast.com. You can leave comments there, or email us at whoknewpodcast@gmail.com. We also have an Instagram and Twitter account. Tweet at us at whoknewpodcast, and find us on Facebook. Today's episode is episode 4 of season 7, The Power of Three. Amy and Rory contemplate how they became part of the Doctor's life, but he never became part of theirs, except once, during the year of the slow invasion. This episode is written by Chris Chibnall, directed by Douglas McKinnon. It originally aired on the 22nd of September 2012 and was watched by 5.49 million viewers. Hi, this is Eugene. Let's introduce ourselves.
Hello, this is Auburn, and I serve the tally.
Hi, this is Heather.
Hello, this is Frank.
Hey, this is Josh.
Hi, this is Brian, and I appreciate the producers writing an episode that feels like it's in real time.
Brian wakes Amy and Rory with the news that little black cubes have suddenly appeared all over the planet. As they go outside to investigate, they find the Doctor, who then sets up the TARDIS in the Pond's home. Brian has many theories that he quickly shares, so the Doctor hands him some cubes to watch. Unit soldiers storm in, followed by Kate Stewart, head of scientific research at UNIT. They detected the spike in Artron energy and came to investigate, hoping to find the Doctor. They don't know much about the cubes and have been testing them with extreme temperatures and under different pressures. Nothing has had any effect, so the Doctor suggests that they observe the cubes and wait.
I liked how they opened it with scenes from previous episodes. Amy saying the visiting doctor is like this. It reminded me of Buffy at the end of the season 5, where they did a little snippet of all the episodes up until then, kind of encapsulating their whole run on the show, which I thought was nice.
Yeah, at first this felt like their flashback cheap episode, like something from the 80s that we were like, hey, remember when we did that?
Right.
But it wasn't, so it was just nice.
It reminded me of the way that Amy started. Well, maybe not the way that she started, but that section of time when she had her little cold open before the main title, like it was kind of harkening back to that. So I thought it was cool as they, are saying goodbye to these characters eventually, that we're kind of revisiting them along the way. Yeah, her narration reminded me a lot of past seasons.
Yeah.
I think a lot of it too may have even been a writing thing where if basically the whole premise of this episode is nothing is happening, we have to open it with something happening.
And I think that's why they also chose the exposition being told by the news and things. It's like, okay, here's all the backstory you really need really quickly, and then we'll get into what we're doing.
But the thing is, it didn't bother me the way I didn't really like Amy's intro that you were referencing, Auburn. But this one didn't really bother me. It kind of almost felt like the opening to a movie.
Yeah.
So I thought it was cute.
Yeah.
It just that it was about this episode. It fit in. It didn't feel shoehorned in like the other.
Yeah.
Oh, and Auburn, did you notice the opening, the logo, the texture on the logo?
Yes, the little diamonds. I mean, they look like diamonds on that logo because of the perspective, but yeah, they're representing like cubes that we see.
This was nice.
Yeah,
Frank had to point that out to me.
I also like to notice now that this was another Chris Chibnall,
Yeah.
written now that he's the showrunner. It's always good to see all those seeds or the ideas that they're playing with before they get to run everything, and see how they then blossom later.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good one. Oh, sorry, this is completely random, but Kate makes a quick statement in this about Banksy says this isn't him. And then there's in the Rosa Parks episode of Chibnall's run, the Doctor says, I'm not Banksy, or am I?
That's right.
Right.
And I think the social media stuff too, like the Twitter, Flickr getting called out, is something that I feel like the 13th Doctor does.
Is Flickr even around anymore?
I think it exists. I when they said it, I was like, oh yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, that social media thing dated this episode.
That was a thing. I
Yeah,
think
definitely.
Kids are on their MySpace today. I can't keep up.
Yeah. My space, your space. We all space.
Are we all on each other's top 8 or top 7? Remember
All right.
that?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I like the music cue that was happening when they showed the cubes, and it was kind of like a Wild West to me.
It sounded like a
tone to
whistle.
it.
It sounded like a whistle.
Yes.
Yeah, I looked up the track. It's called While We Waited, and it reminded me a lot of the Nickelodeon Are You Afraid of the Dark show. That theme was just kind of, I don't know. I just thought that. I don't know how else to explain it.
There was a couple spots where the music was really, really interesting in this episode. Like that cue kept coming back.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was like some cool techno stuff with all the montages. Musically, it felt kind of more energy and a little out of place maybe from the rest of the season.
Maybe that's why I like it, because it's different.
Yeah.
Piggybacking off of that, how you liked it because it felt different. I feel like I'm gonna have a different opinion about this episode from most of you, just by the opening remarks. But I thought I liked the different feel of this episode. It reminded me of like season 1 or 2 with Chris Eccleston and Rose, especially because it pretty much opens with Brian knocking on the door of their house, and there's like a really low budget like cube,
Yeah.
Lots of them.
possible villain, and it just really felt to me like an older episode, which I hadn't felt that way in a long time watching Doctor Who.
I agree with you.
Right off the bat, I was like, ooh, I kind of like that feeling, and I hope the episode continues in this vein.
Yeah, it reminded me of either the Adipose or when the Cybermen are trying to bleed over in Army of Ghosts.
Yeah. That was the first thing I thought of, was the Army
Yeah.
of Ghosts.
Army of Ghosts, yeah.
But I also just love the fantastical mix with the mundane, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like they were hiding that idea, but just that these boxes, what's weird, and I'm sitting, I love it when a show like this poses just the question of like, the heck is going on? What the heck is that? What the heck is that? You know, what is this going to mean? And it keeps making you wonder that throughout. Like, so you're like searching for an answer and just juxtaposing all this crazy stuff with the boxes. I thought it was great. And then it also made you think of, again, all of the things that are just in our house now. Anything from an iPhone cable to, you know, other little, you know, Amazon Echoes and things like that. So it's
The
just,
microchips that we're getting
Yeah.
inserted into our arms.
Oh, right, with the vaccine. I forgot about that. Yeah, that's right.
Have you posted on the Q boards lately?
Not today, but I'll be back on tomorrow.
Well, speaking of that, it does feel like on the next scene a little bit more COVID related. It's as if he went back in time to write this episode of what's going on now. The doctor didn't handle it well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, no one did. I mean, everybody was just taking the cubes into their homes and using them as paperweights, and like that's strangely accurate for some humans as well. If we're going on the COVID parallel.
Yeah. When Brian is in the TARDIS telling the team what his theories, I like the doctor's line here, because Rory asks, there couldn't be life forms in every cube, could there? The doctor replies with, I don't know, and I really don't like not knowing. I'm like, that's the doctor to me.
Yeah. I think that's a great t-shirt. I really like that Brian has become the new Rory. The comic relief, you know, because Rory's actually, you know, pretty serious now. He's fulfilling a story role and somewhat heroic, but you have to have that comic, you know, relief involved. And I think Brian's like a combination of Rory and oh my God, Donna's grandfather.
Oh, Wilf.
Well, yeah. So Brian has become like a combination of Rory and Wilf to me, and I like it.
He was cast so perfectly as
Yeah.
Rory's dad. Like,
I wish he had been in it more.
yeah, me too.
Yeah. But I feel he's so goofy at times that when he has his serious moments, it makes it mean more.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of have a different reaction to Brian. I don't get what his character is. It's not clear cut to me. You know, is he the stand-in for the audience? Is he is he supposed to be smart? Is he supposed to be dumb so that they can do the exposition off of him? It's all of it, isn't it? And so it's like, it's just kind of unclear. And I think it was also because he was in Dinosaurs on a Spaceship in this episode. Sorry, Heather.
You mean this lovely, beautiful, wonderful episode?
Sure. Yeah, great. I don't know. I want to like him, and I do kind of lean on the side of liking him a lot. I love the actor, but for me, Brian just never focuses. He never becomes clear to me.
Yeah. Well, I think it's a definite reaction to what's happening to Amy and Rory. What they are not bringing to the show anymore. They have to have a companion that does that to be, a window for relate to the audience, to bring the comedic elements in, to also bring some of the heart. Like it's that stuff that they are not bringing anymore. You need that like expositional levity. Otherwise, it's only for diehards. So it's like I think they got the right actor. They wrote it well. And then by the time I kind of get annoyed with any of it, something else is happening.
Right.
So I'm kind of like, all right,
That's perfect.
I felt he was a really goofy presence when he just showed up originally. So it kind of bothered me, but now I'm watching these episodes from a different point of view, and I really appreciate what he brings.
I like this part where Brian's coming up with all these options and all these out of the way thinking, but then it's like the doctor just sort of poo-poos them and says, here, watch these, rather than anything else, because he doesn't know. So he just can't answer any of these questions. But it just seemed I wasn't sure if that was supposed to just be comedic or what, or just showing that Brian's ready and he is asking all these other questions and seeing other options that we don't usually get from a new companion.
It kind of falls into the flaw of what you're saying, Brian, where they didn't define him, but like he's so short term, they didn't really need to, because by the time he's not in the next episode, eh?
I don't think so.
Yeah, so by the time we start saying, I don't know how I feel about Brian, we don't have to worry about it anymore.
That's true.
And I think Brian in this situation is like Josh said, for the comedic relief, but also to help Rory's character fill out a little bit towards the end, because he gets. Right. Those sweeter moments with his dad, and for whatever reason, those help him seem more like a full person.
Right.
I did want to point out here, Amy and Rory have added up their travels, and they think they've been with the doctor for about 10 years. So like plus 10 years of their life. Yeah, that's quite a lot. And then I don't know if I like this or I don't like this, but I thought it was interesting that Amy's new job of writing travel articles for magazines. I mean, sure, she has to do something, and that seems good. I wish she had been doing it earlier. That would have been an interesting job to like mix with TARDIS travel. And yeah.
That's a cute idea for the future companions.
Yeah.
You'd have a little Lois Lane type. Be like, wait, taking her notes.
Because I like the idea because it's not a 9-to-5 job, and she is going to be traveling and maybe not be able to be accessible for a while. So it goes along with her traveling, because I could see the modeling that she did. You need to be certain places, certain times, a little more rigid, where she may not be able to always accommodate that.
She's also 10 years older, so she's aged out of modeling.
Right.
Oh, ouch.
She aged out faster than most people. 10 years faster.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, Alburn, because that was the same thing I was going to bring up. So I was like, cool. We find out that this is her new occupation, and that Rory is still a nurse. And the lines in here are pretty funny. Like he goes, right, I'm off to work. What? You got a job? Of course I gotta. What do you think we do when we're not with you? I imagine mostly kissing.
And Rory does a little shrug.
And Rory kind of nods to Amy.
Yeah. Yeah, that was funny. Oh, and when Kate comes in, the doctor salutes Kate. That's a nod to something that we'll find out later.
Does he? I didn't catch that.
That's cool.
So he knew from the very beginning who she was?
I think so, because she also knew sort of from the beginning, because she's the one that scans him to see two hearts.
Right.
Well, she got it from his fashion sense.
She also kind of insults the soldiers. The dogs like to be let out on a run, and I was like, well, that's rude.
Well, she was angry because they burst into the house with guns drawn and
okay.
And
fair enough.
Not threatened, but scared the daylights out of them. They didn't know what was going on. And she was like, just knock on the door.
Yeah, this is the first appearance of Kate, and I did not for the life of me connect this to this episode.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Or sorry, first appearance of Kate in the modern series.
She appears in another series? Yeah.
Yeah, there was a direct-to-video spin-off called Downtime in 1995 from Doctor Who, classic Doctor Who, and it featured most of the surviving or the alive actors that played the companions. It was I've never seen this, so a Doctor Who spin-off without the Doctor and just companions.
Right.
So Nicholas Courtney played the Brigadier in that. Sarah Jane Smith was in there, and I believe Kate was like a young girl at that point.
It's all canon.
One more tiny little thing, teeny tiny little thing before we move on. In the very beginning, when they're saying how humdrum their Amy and Rory's lives are, you can hear the voice messages. Amy's playing their messages, and the voice says, "This is the eye doctor calling. Amy, your reading glasses are ready to be picked up." And then it's not a big deal, but it's carried on in the next couple episodes. After 4 days of the cubes doing nothing, the Doctor goes a bit stir-crazy and tries to keep busy with housework, but it just doesn't work. He leaves, but will come back when the TARDIS reports that something is happening. While he is gone, life gets back to normal for the Pawns. Amy gets to be a bridesmaid and Rory takes a full-time job at the hospital. They realize that they like this everyday life. Brian monitors the cubes daily and sends his reports to UNIT. During the following months, everyone just becomes used to the cubes being around.
I like how... Does Brian spell out unit or say the whole acronym?
UNIT.
Yeah, this part where the Doctor hates waiting, it reminded me of Vincent and the Doctor. Is this how time normally passes? Really slow, in the right order?
In the right order.
And when he came back and then he asked Amy and Rory, how long have I been gone? And they said an hour. I was like, you could have made this funny and been like, you've only been gone 10 minutes or 20 minutes. A full hour. Like, oh, that's a missed joke.
He did a lot for an hour. I think it was.
But see, that's the joke.
I did find it interesting that Brian says that they just can't go off like that because the Doctor is going to leave saying, I can't do this anymore, come along with me. And they were like, well, no, we still have our own lives. Things go on here. It's not just all about you, Doctor. Rory's telling him that. But just think, we're watching Brian's growth or progression throughout this episode as well, when he's saying you just can't leave just on a drop of a hat like that.
Yeah, he becomes more of a, even though he's still a comedic foil, he's definitely more grounded than he was in the prior episode.
Right.
I find his little obsession with these cubes to be very charming.
Yeah.
I didn't have any problems trying to figure out Brian's character because I just enjoyed his moments on screen, so I didn't really overthink it.
Yeah, he made that scene of surveillance with the cube. That could be boring, but he made it fun to watch. Like the little business he does with his looks, I found very good.
Yeah, I mean, it's a challenge, whether it was writing or filmmaking, where, okay, we have to make nothing happening interesting for this amount of time. Who can we get to do that?
Right.
And he takes it so seriously.
Yeah. I wonder if any of that was improv.
No, I'm sure some of it was, and they probably used the best takes.
Yeah.
But Frank, did you catch your favorite Christmas holiday song?
Yes.
Oh, was it from? Is it from the Christmas party? Was it?
The Slade.
It's specifically when Rory's working during Christmas time, and there's that small Christmas tree in the, I guess, reception area of the hospital. It's playing "Merry Christmas, Everybody" by Slade.
And that again made this episode feel like an older episode because
Yeah.
I feel like we skipped a couple Christmases with that song.
Yeah.
Right.
I was like, you can't do it for like 4 Christmases in a row and then drop it. Like, what?
And then spring it to us on a non-Christmas. Yay!
This is tradition.
Now, this is something we left out of the synopsis because here there's a little girl in the hospital sitting there for months that nobody seems to notice holding a cube. It's like, why did they put this in this?
I was just like, well, she's still waiting in the waiting room. We all know what that feels like. So I didn't even pick up on the fact that that's been months and she's still there and hasn't aged either.
Yeah, they put the months there, which was nice, about October, about the bridesmaids, and then Christmas.
Again, there's just so much information in these episodes. Sometimes other stuff, your brain's like, no, I'm thinking about this, so I guess I can't take this in right now.
Yeah.
I think she must have been cut out of the episode because there really wasn't anything that she did.
I think she was just to be creepy as well in the hospital.
Yeah, because she really didn't serve much of a function at the end of the day.
Yeah. At the same time, too, like even the twins, like didn't have to be twins. Could have just, but it's creepy.
Yep.
Yeah. I think, yeah, Josh, you keep saying that this is like an episode where nothing is supposed to happen, but a lot of stuff does happen. Like they do have it really paced up. And like you said, you don't get to sit around
feel it.
anywhere. Yeah. Cause you are like, there's so many montages of either it's the doctor, painting the walls and kicking his soccer ball, or it's, we go through the seasons real quick. There's a lot of these very quick transitions. So you're right. You don't get a chance to really sit and think about the holes. And that's a problem sometimes with some of these episodes where they do take it a little bit slower. You get the time to sit and say, wait a minute, oh, that doesn't work while you're watching. So this is nice because at least you don't get to do that until, after when you're doing the podcast next week and talking
That's
through
exactly
it all.
what happened to me. I was like, wait, that girl's been sitting there for months and no one's noticed. Oh, soccer ball.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love how when he hits the highs of his kicking the soccer ball, he wants to tell Amy. Amy!
It is the child. Mommy, watch me. Mommy, watch me.
He did miss a few spots on the fence, I noticed, in the middle.
Intentional.
It's rustic, it's weathered.
Exactly.
But that's Matt Smith's soccer skills or football skills in practice.
Oh,
yeah.
Right.
He's good.
I thought you were going to say that was actually Matt Smith's fence, so he was doing his own work.
I would hope you'd have better taste than that because that color was nasty.
He's colorblind.
One thing, I think it came after the Dr. Busy montage when Amy and Rory were talking to the doctor about, that not everything is about him or life doesn't stop when he leaves, something like that. And it just felt really like their emotions struck me at that moment as being kind of resentful to the doctor, which is, of course, what they're experiencing after, Amy's had her whole life with the doctor. And so now that like the fantasy of the Raggedy Man is coming to an end and they're actually facing adulthood, there's some resentment there that they can't continue to travel and they can't continue to be young and run away forever. So I just thought the emotion there was really like human and relatable for us when we don't often get those really like actual human reactions to the doctor. This one felt like, yeah, these people have been traveling for 10 years and there is tension. Like they still love each other, but there's like, it was just good tension in that moment.
Yeah.
I feel that that's a theme. That's kind of the heart of this episode.
Mm-hmm.
Put a pin in that one.
Yeah.
Another few months pass, and Amy calls the doctor to stop by during their anniversary party. He immediately shows up behind her and takes them away in the TARDIS to spend the night in 1890 at the opening of the Savoy Hotel as a gift. After a few complications and Amy committing bigamy by marrying Henry VIII, the doctor returns them back to their anniversary party after 7 weeks of traveling. Brian knows that they were gone from the party and asks the doctor what happened to his other companions. The doctor tells him that some leave, others are left behind, and some, a few, died. But he will protect Rory and Amy.
Right. How many times has Rory died already?
He left that part out.
Never them. Excuse me.
I meant never again.
Because when he was saying that, I thought in my head they'll be okay because they're different. They have each other. Like it's them. Rory and Amy are invincible together, which is basically, if you include the doctor, it's the power of three. Like it's kind of like theme is they will survive because it's the two of them. And what they have.
Yeah, I immediately thought of Classic Who because none of our modern companions have died in the way that I think is conveyed to Brian's worry as a father to Amy and Rory.
Right.
And I immediately thought of Adric as one of the Classic Who companions that dies, I think.
Yeah. Oh yeah, he's the one that died.
But then I looked it up, and the first Doctor has a companion that is, I think, the first one to die on screen, and that is Katerina. And she dies in the Daleks' master plan by opening an airlock because she's being taken hostage, so she kills herself and her captor.
Oh my.
Who's she? I don't think I've ever
heard of Ripley.
And there's missing episodes, right, from some of that time that
from the first Doctor, I think maybe 2.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
they have them all now.
It's the second Doctor that's missing a lot.
Oh, okay.
So Katerina is She's introduced in The Mythmakers, which takes place around the siege of Troy, and I guess that's it. I don't really know her that much. She was on in
Now I want to find out.
in the
Eugene, this is twice you haven't had all the answers, and I am not used to this.
We don't
I
like
do
you
not like not knowing.
Sorry, I didn't mean to blow it for you.
Yeah, this is a companion or an heir of the first Doctor I don't really know much about. The other part that I like about this is that we are shown snippets of adventures that happen while we're not with the TARDIS trio, the TARDIS team, like this Zygon invasion at the hotel.
Yeah.
That's cool. We get to see like snippets of it.
And we get to
Zygons
see
underneath the
Amy's amazing, like Jane Austen style, which I loved.
Yeah, and all the other stuff before with Henry VIII.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's great that they went through all that costume and set for 10 seconds of screen time, but again, it helps keep the story moving because we are constantly changing and making those jumps.
I think it really illustrates the point too that for them, this isn't just 1 hour a week that they're going on an adventure. It's 7 weeks in the middle of their anniversary party.
Yeah, and then when they come back, I really like that when Brian asks how long have they been gone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it really hits home. Like, oh, you understand that that's what's happening, but you don't really think about it that way until they sort of give you a different perception. So that's when you realize, and the whole thing when they say it's been 10 years, you really start to understand on a different level the double life that Amy and Rory have been living.
I love this little encapsulated into this paragraph. Everything that happens here, I think, is the most emotional, but emotional in that it's not dramatic. It's just he shows up at the party and says, "Come with me. It's okay. I'll get you right back." They go with him. They're thrilled to be at the hotel, and then they have adventures, and then they come back and they're like, they just go right back into the party. Everything's fine with them, but Brian notices, and then Brian talks to the doctor, and it gets a little serious, but it's kind of earned. It's organic. To me, this entire section works really well. I wouldn't change a thing in this part.
Yeah.
It's different from the last few episodes where the tone has been completely off. It's like they really nailed the tone in this one.
Yeah, and the tone changes, but it works.
And I think this is why I like the character of Brian in this episode, because of this scene, because he's actively looking out for Amy and Rory, and he's smart enough to know that something's off from his point of view. And I think that's why I like him as a character, because he's now filling that role that we've had in previous seasons, like Josh mentioned Wilf, but then Jackie for me as well, where Jackie tells the doctor, you take care of Rose. It's that type of grounding that I don't think we've had with Amy and Rory, because before it was Rory wanting Amy to be safe on her travels, and then Rory comes on board the TARDIS and goes on these travels. So there's nobody anchoring them home. And that's why I feel like I want more of Brian in more episodes before this. I think that would have helped me.
Yeah, I did like his acting choice. The way he picks it to look away while asking these questions of the doctor that are so important to him. How long have you been gone? What happens to your companions? The acting choices, it hit me great. I love
He's like a college professor where he wants to give information by asking questions.
Yeah, or a therapist.
Or a therapist.
What do you mean by that, Josh?
Well,
no.
Oh, the other thing I had was that when Matt Smith kind of celebrates their anniversary, he does something that I think is very Matt Smith and not the doctor, where he goes like that. I don't know if you caught that little bit of business right before Brian talks to him about what we've just been talking about.
Yeah, pumping the arms, woohoo kind of thing for people who can't see this.
It just looks so funny.
The doctor asks to stay with Amy and Rory because he misses them. That's when the cubes finally make their move. One morning, all the cubes on the planet start doing something that affects or tests the people nearest them. Amy's cube pricks her hand and starts monitoring her heartbeat. The one closest to the doctor begins to hover, and when the doctor tells it he will defend the Earth, it shoots lasers at him. It then begins to scan the internet, acquiring information. Rory and Brian go to the overwhelmed hospital to help out. Kate sends a message to the doctor on his psychic paper that he is needed at unit. When Amy and the doctor arrive, Kate shows them 50 cubes being monitored, all doing something different. One is affecting people's moods, another spewing fire, and I bet Eugene is playing the chicken dance music over the podcast right now. Pure evil. The doctor is impressed by Kate, just like her father, the Brigadier.
Yeah, that was a great thing right there.
And the music they played when he was talking to Kate, I believe, was the same music that was played when he was on the phone with the nurse talking about the brigadier's death. So that, from what I've heard, yes, that's it. So double check me on that. But I thought that was a nice little usage of the music again to tie those two together.
Yeah, and the doctor comes alive when everyone reports what the cubes have done. Again, I
Right.
like that character moment. It's just this scene was great for me. And earlier, when the doctor he's playing the Wii, that definitely dates this episode, along with the flicker reference.
Yeah.
And on that scene, I want to bring up something that was so meta, I laughed very hard, and I really enjoyed it. Because there is an old trope about kids who watch Doctor Who getting so scared that they hide behind the sofa. And when the cube starts shooting at the doctor, he jumps and hides behind the sofa. I thought that was great. That was brilliant.
And then he has a line here, a reference to K9 about hovering. Is that all you can do? I had a dog that could do that.
Yeah.
But I also like how he processes the information so quickly and then says right away, I defend this planet. You know, he's making sure that he gets the serious stuff out of the way to these invaders or whatever they are. It's like, you know, if you have hostile intent, you're in big trouble.
But did he cause a hostile intent by saying that? That's what I always thought. Because each cube was doing something different. And this cube's getting confronted saying, I will stop you no matter what. Okay, let's test this.
I would
cube
say
shot
no
at him.
just because of the exposition we get from the hologram later.
Okay, well, remind me of that one. Because I always thought by saying that, this is what this cube decided to do. It's like, shows it as a threat, a bit. Okay, let's test this and see how agile they are, what's going on, and here's the stuff.
Oh, turns a specific cube into a threat, not all of them?
Right, because that cube then went to do its primary job of scanning the internet.
Okay.
But all the
I thought you were talking about the whole overarching...
No, just that one thing, because the doctor said what he did to that one cube.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Shot at get him out of the way.
I'm sorry, I completely misunderstood, and I totally agree with you.
Speaking of the cubes, the special effects on those are great. Like the one with Rory, there was like no seams. I don't know if they digitally removed them or they made a special cube that didn't have the seams that you could normally see where that side of the cube goes up. And then even the one that spikes Amy and gets her blood, those little needles looked amazing.
Yeah, I wasn't cool with that. Youch.
But that I thought was
an allergy
clue to what they're going to do later. I mean, that was the one that they decided to go with.
Oh, and even the one that's hovering near Matt Smith, at one point it's a practical cube because somebody holds it just out of frame and like does that to it. It's
Really?
It's nice how they do it.
I YouTube searched Power of Three behind the scenes, and they do have there's a little clip about 3 minutes where they're showing some of the setting up the cubes in like London and on the ground and all around. Yeah, they had a lot of practical cubes. It looked good.
Yeah.
And there's some nice moments there in that video clip if you're able to find it. Rory even talking about getting to work with the actor that plays his father, and everyone just looked like they had a really good time.
Makes you think of those monoliths, right?
Oh yeah, the ones that are disappearing. Where'd those go?
They just sit there. They're not doing anything.
It's full of stars.
Suddenly, all the cubes stop and are dormant once again. With nothing to do at the moment, the doctor and Amy talk about whether she and Rory are considering not traveling with him any longer. They like the life they have built and know they can't keep doing both. Traveling feels like running away, but the doctor says there is so much to see in the universe that, for him, traveling is running to experience it. He keeps returning to them while he can, before they fade away. At that moment, the cubes finish processing the information and begin to count down. UNIT sends out a global warning for people to get away from the cubes.
I really, really like the heart-to-heart. I like that the doctor finally is like, I miss you guys. Like, he doesn't usually say that he misses or cares about anyone, but he kind of just like, okay, I miss you. And I like it when my hero characters show a little vulnerability, okay? That's my thing.
That's a great thing.
Yeah.
I think that follows up why the doctor wanted to work in their kitchen. It's like he's got the entire TARDIS. He's got a lab in the TARDIS, and he takes all this stuff. Okay, you need to set up your lab in your kitchen. It's like he just wants to be there, you know. So at least that explains why he did that. I think that ties in well.
Yeah.
I think there's an element in that conversation too. What made me think of is the dichotomy of, do you work to live or live to work? Where, you know, it's obvious he was describing all the things that they're doing, all the mundaneness of this one life at home in a house where you have this vast universe, which would represent work. Like, is a person working themselves only because they are trying to escape what that other life is about? Or is it just that's what they gravitate towards? Like, you can't really, what type of person are you? And how Amy was a lot like that at first, and now she's sort of grown to appreciate a home life. So it made me think of that at the same time, possibly because I've, you know, dealt with that myself. So it's just like you said, Heather, there's a lot going on in that conversation and personal motivations.
I do really like that he defends himself. Like, he's vulnerable, but he's not saying, I am the guy who always runs away. Like, he's vulnerable, but he says, I don't run away from things, I run to things. So it's not,
right.
You don't cross that line from into sappy. We stay in a nice, like, middle territory.
Right, and then, because you could also go and take it a step further and go, is that what you think you're doing, or is that what you're actually doing? You know, what is your subconscious telling you? But that's a whole other barrel nuts.
Because he is saying that she somehow, you know, impressed his heart, you know, and so there's a different bond. But he goes on, he says how small where they are is right now, because there's only one corridor of one galaxy, one universe, yada, yada, yada. And he doesn't have any Force of Cheen people as companions or anything else. He always comes back to Earth and to them. So it's kind of like you're saying you're not running from anything, you're running to something, but you keep coming back to the same thing. You're not going to all the other places unless you have a human companion.
Right.
I guess I should have clarified for that. I agree with you, Frank, and Josh. I think you said this too. Just because he is defending himself doesn't necessarily mean he believes it. I'm just saying right now he's defending himself out loud rather than going full, like, I'm a failure, which would probably be more David Tennant's Doctor at some point.
And in the classic,
he hasn't gotten to the super depression level yet.
But in the classic series, he was running away a lot more. He was running away from Gallifrey and the Time Lords and the way they would run things, partly because he wants to see everything else.
I do also really like the moment at the end, which wraps it up, that he says, yours was the first face that his face saw.
I love that line.
That was really sweet, you know.
Especially because when you think about it, she was just a little girl, and then it's extra cute.
Yeah. And it just really cements, you know, family. Like, first face your face sees is your mother or your father or the Doctor, I guess. But the Doctor, so it really cements the fact that they are family at this point. And I think this is the only companion that any of the Doctors have ever experienced that with.
I did have one thing. This is a great scene, and I love how she's like, it feels like we're running away. And he explains how it feels like he's running to something. And it's really well written. It is a well-written scene. But in its own way, we've seen this scene now since the reboot started. It's another example of explaining the Doctor is running from things, but is he really? And
right.
So to me, it's like it's very repetitive tone-wise, character arc-wise. It's like, this is really well written, but I'm also torn between, we've seen this before. And I think the reason why it bothers me in this episode is because nothing's happening. So it's like, okay, you're giving us something really good that isn't new. You know, to me, we don't need to hear about the Doctor running away.
But is it because nothing's happening that it does work? Because usually something's happening?
Well, that's the difference between story-wise and watching a TV show-wise. As the viewer, that's why I say it's a good scene. It's well written, it's well acted, it's good for the characters who don't know they're in a TV show. And Amy doesn't realize that the Doctor's had this conversation with 5 companions before.
Ouch.
But it's really well done. But as the viewer, you know, I'm just like, oh, I wish you could have put some sort of spin on it. It didn't seem to bring anything new to that conflict in the Doctor. Maybe if Amy had responded with what Frank said, you think you're running away, you're running towards everything, but you know, right now you keep coming back to us. Is that really running towards something when you come back to us? I mean, if they had carried that thought further,
I kind of
felt it was so repetitive.
To a small extent, I kind of feel like what I was mentioning earlier clear as that he says yours was the first face that this face saw. So it's almost like all this excuses and reasoning why I'm doing what I'm doing, but really it just boils down to you're my family. Like it's almost like he's finally admitting to the fact that because I love you.
Yes, he is.
And to your point, it's like the whole scene is minutes long, and that one bit is, you know, a button on the end of it. But I think it does mean a lot. Oh, I'm sorry, I have the episode playing behind me. I see that it's like causing.
I was watching it.
Convulsatory.
And Brian, I do not disagree with you. I think to be 100% honest, I think that this is like these types of scenes are fan service. There's a large part of the fan base that really enjoys these scenes.
Yeah.
I'm one of them. So I'm not blind to the fact that they keep popping up just to so that we all go, ooh, you know.
And from a fan scene, a lot of people started with Matt Smith, so they didn't see the relationship at this point.
Oh, that's a good point.
And I think too, the show had become such a juggernaut that they need to kind of insert some repetitive nature for new viewers. Like these are the things that are in our shows.
These are the tent poles.
Yeah, these are the tent poles that have to be in at least every other episode. Where are we gonna put them? Because you're for you, it's damn repetitive. But for someone who is maybe just watching it for the first time, or just popped in, like you said, a Matt Smith, or maybe this is a new Hugh. Oh my gosh, a new Who viewer. Why did we choose that?
New Hugh. Huey and the Loos. Wow, Huey and the Loos.
Yeah, I can see that now, where it is like, oh dear God, are you on Star Trek going to talk about the Prime Directive again?
Right. Yeah. It's kind of like that. Whereas some Prime Directive conversations are incredibly poignant and wow, that's so awesome. Star Trek's so awesome. And sometimes it's like, yeah, we know, don't interfere.
Blah blah blah. You've got a story to tell.
And the whole thing about running, it just made me think of what's the first word that the Doctor ever said to Rose? Run. Like, so from moment one of this series, it's been about running, whether it's physical, it's all a metaphor for why are you running? Are you running from? Are you running to? Are you running to lose weight? Whatever it may be. So there's like a lot of things in there. But again, it's like when you make a show, there are certain caveats you just gotta fill. And at least it was a nice scene.
Yeah.
Listening to everybody, but now it just seems so much more focused on, is that this is a relationship of a parent with a kid growing up and moving out on her own. You know, it seems like the Doctor wants her to be a little kid, but she's going, oh, we've been traveling with you for 10 years. Look at you now, all grown up, you know, and just all those things are like, that's what this basically is boiling down to.
It's
letting
like,
your adult kids go and be their own.
Yeah.
It's like Granny Wendy from Hook.
Oh yeah.
I'm not a little girl anymore, Peter. Oh God.
I don't remember that cackle when she did it. Just kidding.
You have to watch it again now, Eugene.
Well, see.
Come on, clearly it's the classic Maggie Smith cackle ever.
Well, I want to bring it all the way back to when we did season 1 with Eccleston, where my perception of the Doctor has always been parental. And I remember some people didn't like that because they saw that there was an attraction from Rose to the 9th Doctor, and they thought it was reciprocated that way. And this is a perfect example of why I've always seen the Doctor as parental to his companions, because not only because of his age, or her age, but the way that the Doctor acts and protects the companions. Right. And I just remember we had a very big discussion about that way back when we started, all the way in season 1 with Eccleston and Rose. But to me, that's always been the standard. And then what the show decides to do beyond that, then I can shift. But that's my default, if that makes sense. And then
that is the classic companion role.
And that's what I tried to explain. Like, that's where I'm coming from, where a lot of people are like, no, I reject that idea. I'm like, well, you haven't had the literary, the filmography, I get, whatever you call it, literacy.
I object.
But speaking of family, I consider the Brigadier part of family because of the classic Who relationship. And I think that this reveal that Kate is the daughter of Alistair Lethbridge Stewart, I thought was great. And I was like right there, I think emotionally where they wanted me to be. Like the lines, like her being able to reach the Doctor on psychic paper, that's a clue. Like, you know that somebody who knows how to reach the Doctor and is powerful enough to do that. And then the Doctor knowing that Kate has been the daughter all along, I like that. Because the Doctor is supposed to be the smartest one in the room, so he would know that. And
I wasn't sure at what point he figured it out. So I'm glad you guys.
Yeah.
I didn't know they had any history.
Well, I think at the time that it was revealed in the episode was the perfect time because we know who as a modern viewer, we know who Unit is. We don't really know who the Brigadier is besides that line in is it A Good Man Goes to War or Wedding of Riverside? One of those of last season. It's at the end of season 6. Modern Who viewers have not seen the Brigadier as we have covered it. So this person that comes in as Kate is completely new to the Modern Who viewer. Mm-hmm. And I like that it's exposition and it's tying it back to the classic Who continuity. And it's also character building in the same kind of scene where Kate says, he's been guiding me even to the end. I like that. And then the Doctor replies with, we don't let him down. We don't let the planet down. It's all like, it's as if you're building a house out of bricks and all these bricks are just coming and it's building the wall or the chimney or whatever part of the house. And I just enjoyed how it was done just from being a classic Who viewer.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I liked that they put in the Star Trek 47 reference.
Yes, that was funny.
So that was definitely intended on that one.
Can you explain for the rest of us that might not have gotten it?
Yeah, please.
47 always shows up in Star Trek. Brian, do you know where that started? I can't think of it right now.
Yeah, it was from a script writing class that one of the writers took when he was in college, and his instructor said, "Does anybody notice that the number 47 shows up in scripts all the time?" And so the guy took that, and everywhere in Star Trek is 47. Everywhere.
So he started writing that in.
Now that you know that, if you ever watch Star Trek, you'll catch it.
How many people survived or got beamed aboard? How many?
I get it. It's because 40 is such a nice, clean, even number, and 7 is like the lucky odd number, and you just put them together, and it's like.
And it sounds good. There's a good cadence to it.
47.
Mm-hmm.
47.
Yeah. I'm all about that.
Well, interesting thing about numbers is that they look plainly like English numbers or Roman numbers when they're alien cube things. Like
the TARDIS is translating it. Plus, the cube also knows.
Yeah.
After the fact, it's like they're communicating with the world, so they would do that on purpose. I think it wasn't to tell themselves, "Let's only tell us we're counting down."
Yeah.
Although I don't really understand the purpose of a countdown. I mean, like,
it wasn't.
They like you better do what before you get to 0, because when we get to 0, we're gonna do whatever it is we're gonna do, and there's nothing you could do.
I know, it actually gave the humans time to prepare.
Yeah.
Well, it gave a lot of them time to look at it closely.
And it's a reason.
It was to intrigue them.
Oh,
we're doing
that's
something
true.
And we're doing counting down. Did you not see V when they're counting down and everybody goes to go, hey, take me and all this? And for Independence Day had the countdown, same thing.
Yeah, it's an element that it ups the stakes, and it's a new thing to keep us going, guessing what's going to happen. But I just thought the design of the 7 is a very simple number, and just like I don't know, a shape.
I didn't even know if it was a 7 first.
Right, like I wouldn't have known it was a number unless they said, "Oh, it's a 7. It's a number. What does 7 mean? 7." Like got that from That's I think where my leap came in, because the way that they had it, I'm gesturing 2 lines, a very simple number 7 as a symbol can be a lot of things. I don't leap to a number right away.
I read it as a Japanese character when it first came on, because it's got a curve in it, so very much like a specific Japanese character.
And I thought it was some kind of rune.
Yeah. But I did like the boxes and the look of like the cardiogram and the other like lights that were in the boxes, and then the numbers, that all worked really well, how it all fit together in the practicals and the CG. It looked cool.
I like how the numbers seemed 3-dimensional, like they were in the middle of the cube.
Yeah. Was that an effect or was that practical?
It was an effect. Eugene? I think it was an effect. I think it was digitally added.
But yeah, it looked good.
Yeah.
I want a box. Like if those boxes had that little like clocks like that, I would buy one of those. Yeah.
Sure.
Come on, BBC.
We can get Heather the one that has all the needles stick out.
Oh no.
Right.
That's the snooze button to keep it wake you up.
That's what gets you out of bed.
Yeah, you hit that and go, oh, I'm awake.
People are masochists.
At the hospital, Brian is collecting supplies, but is abducted by the 2 orderlies. Rory sees them wheeling his father into an elevator. He runs to it, but Brian and the orderlies have disappeared. He discovers that the back wall of the elevator is a teleport and is transported to a spaceship watching Earth through a wormhole. At unit, the doctor locks himself in an observation room with one of the cubes as the countdown reaches 0. At first, nothing happens, and the doctor leaves the room. Soon enough, people near the cubes begin to collapse, as does the doctor. The cubes are sending out a signal that stops people's hearts. Luckily, the doctor has a spare. He determines that the cubes are signal relays and finds a transmission point coming from the hospital elevator. Kate, Josh, that wasn't distracting at all while I was trying to read.
I apologize. I couldn't pass up the coincidence that what you were reading was happening on my screen.
I really
apologies.
enjoy
it was fine.
I really enjoy the doctor having only one heart. It's a very good comedic moment. What is he? Blimey.
Yeah.
Crikey.
He's got all the British curses that aren't really curses.
I loved the shot of Rory running down the hallway, the way they shot that it just kept going. I mean, I know how they did it, but like it just worked really well. Like, why isn't he catching up? But like when you're trying to get this, it's almost like a dream, when you're running in a dream and you're not getting anywhere.
That was so creepy. It reminded me of the episode with the hospital on the moon.
Smith and Jones.
Yes.
Well, then the two twins reminded me of the empty child with the gas masks.
Okay, for me, they're a mix between Hubert and that episode of The Twilight Zone.
Yes.
Yeah.
This is the end of the little girl storyline that didn't really
Right. Yeah.
Her long, complicated storyline of
that went by way too fast.
I really like this episode, except for the way things wrap up, like the logic behind the way they wrap up, which we'll get to when we get to it. But like the girl, for one thing, they really draw out all this tension, and then when the thing comes to ahead with the little girl, that's all. We'll explain it. This is what happened. Okay, next scene.
Yeah,
and that's just what it keeps doing. I can't remember what episode it was, but we've talked about that before. How they really build some great tension, and then the climax of the tension is just brushed over because it's not, the logic of it isn't half as interesting as the tension itself. And then it's like, oh, here's a shiny little monkey, look over here. And then as soon as we get to that monkey, this isn't a monkey. Oh, here's another little monkey. So it's like we just keep getting distracted by the next question.
I mean, I think I know what the storyline was. I'm not sure, but she was an outlier droid for monitoring the situation, and they had 7 portals. So I'm thinking there were 7 of those monitoring people just to see if anyone's coming towards or going to be attacking their portals. She was like a sentry or security guard for that.
Either that, or I found, because she's in the hospital, I almost think she was gathering information on how to hurt people. How are humans vulnerable? So they put her and possibly every one of them in a hospital all over the world.
The thing is, she is so useless. She could be any of that.
Yeah, it's just it's just an information. She's just an information beacon, it seems.
But she has
I thought it was tied more to the portal because they had all the cubes to find out all the other how humans are vulnerable, and they've taken some humans, from the hospital. So it just seemed like she was tied to the portal. So to me, the only way I could justify it was since she was monitoring the portal.
Okay. Yeah. Who knows? That sounds good. I like it.
Even that with the 7 being the countdown, you're counting from 7 and not 10, coinciding with the 7 portals. I'm like, why?
You know what? If I'm gonna think this into a reason, maybe it wasn't a countdown. It was basically, they are basically saying station 7, check. Station 6, check. Say, they're all like, like Houston, go for launch. Maybe it wasn't. It seems like, well, to a human, like, well, that's a countdown. But basically, they were actually
red checking in
with each, checking in with each one of their portals. And when they got to the last portal, it's a go.
Hey, I like that better, but it's not explained clearly why.
No, of course not.
Yeah.
Eugene, just accept it as fact.
Well, this is where like the episode starts falling apart for me, because everything prior to this portion of what we're talking about, I'm enjoying this character stuff, this exposition, this sort of mood that they're setting up, and then we get the cubes open, they zap the hearts. This exposition is given so quickly, like Josh mentioned. The doctor is operating on one heart, so he's not telling us in a fast way, he's telling us in a panicked survival way.
He could have, if that was a reasoning that they even thought of, he could have said that, and then we would have been like, oh, that's really a cool idea.
Yeah.
Or something like that. Like, I love the stuff when alien stuff is interpreted differently by people, and then we find out what it really is.
Yeah, this wasn't the case on that.
But again, I was so distracted by the doctor being hilarious and only having one heart that I was like, whatever. I'll take it.
This is one where, you know, sometimes we theorize, like they made this whole episode for this one line just so they could have this one line. They made the whole episode. This is one after watching that YouTube video, I believe they did make this whole episode for the very last line.
Yes.
Which we'll get to, but that explains a lot of like why especially this ending stuff is kind of hit and miss, because it didn't matter. What mattered was that last piece of dialogue and setting it up so that we could get there.
And does it make it all okay? We don't know.
This episode, this is an episode where it feels like the entire plot is the C story. Not even the B story. It's the C story. It's really like, we just need something to explain why these people are here. We don't care. I mean, the writers just didn't care about the plot.
Honestly, I think that's why I like this episode.
I mean, it's all about, Rory and Amy are going away.
And emotions,
Well, as you guys, I've said it before, I'm a character person. I'm a character growth character.
You are a character.
Hey.
And you are a person.
Yeah.
And of course, I really like it when the adventures are cool and exciting as well. However, if I get an episode that makes me feel things for the characters, I can forgive a lot more than I can if it's just an all-over bad idea. So I totally agree with you. The plot is the C story, and it's really dumb, and I have zero attachment to it. But I think the reason that I hold this episode in such high regard is because I'm okay. I really enjoyed the rest of it. The A plot that is not actually plot. It's just character development.
Yeah. Amy and the doctor return to the hospital, where Amy uses a defibrillator to restart his left heart, and then they go through the portal to the spaceship. They find Rory, his father, and other unconscious people on gurneys. They wake Rory and Brian and get the others back through the portal.
At least I'm assuming they did, because we don't know what they did with the other people, but I'm going to put it in there.
They're dead. They did not save those other people. That's part of the point.
Okay.
I like the episode better now.
So I'll reread that.
No, it's okay. You can leave it
I think that's good. Yeah.
They wake Rory and Brian and no one else.
That is how I read it.
The doctor encounters the emergency baddie hologram. State the nature of the resistance, which is
Star Trek again, people.
Which is in an image of a Shakri, a monster from Gallifreyan lore. The Shakri want to stop humans from infecting space and are here to serve the Tally, or Judgment Day, for humans. The Shakri begins the second wave to end humanity and disappears.
How lovely.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to say, Brian getting rolled out on the gurney as he looks back in complete confusion, again, cements why I like Brian.
Yeah.
And I take that to be he is actually being every single viewer watching this episode.
Being wheeled out of the plot.
Now, I know you will talk about this later, Eugene, but the actor who plays the Shakri, I feel is very familiar.
Yes, he is.
What has he done? Yeah.
Okay, there now.
Well, just help me, because I feel like I know him, but I didn't bother looking myself.
He's played by Steven Berkoff. And he usually plays Eastern European villains in movies, like he was Orlov in Octopussy. He was Victor Maitland in Beverly Hills Cop.
Oh.
Podovsky in Rambo First Blood Part 2. And I'll save the rest, but he usually plays villains.
How can it be First Blood if it's Part 2? That's all I'm saying.
It's a weird...
The first movie was First Blood.
You guys don't really answer. Come on.
It's rhetorical.
I will agree with you, that's a very confusing title.
They should have just called it Rambo Second Blood.
Part 1.
Well, I thought the actor who played the Shakri did a great job, especially his eye acting was superb.
I thought it was creepy as heck. I thought he did a great job of being, you know, the boogeyman for Gallifrey. And then as he was going on with his explanation, I was like, you get very villainous, like, oh, this guy wants to destroy humanity. Like, no, it's just they're a disease when you do exterminate the disease, you know, like COVID or whatever it may be. So the menace that he was exhibiting was totally pointless. Like, a doctor's not going to be, I'm going to eradicate COVID and all the COVID will be gone. That's what it
How is
felt
that a
like.
boogie?
Yeah, it's just
I got chills, Josh. I got chills.
Yes, the point that he was making was so matter of fact, like, well, humans are a disease and we need to get rid of them. To be that menacing was totally in total conflict with that idea. And I really like this episode, except for that. Like, I could kind of geek think things here and there and all that stuff. And then when that happened, I was like, what? And then all of a sudden, right when I was like, but then we're like, then we're back to the other scene and there's another shiny new monkey. So overall, I do like this episode, but that was just so in conflict with the way that the actor was. And I almost think, to your point, Auburn, what a waste of great acting, because the point of it is totally antithetical to the point of what he was saying. So whatever.
I'll have something for an explanation at the end.
Oh,
Sure.
This almost reminds me of what's the villain from David Tennant's very first episode?
The Christmas trees.
No, they're like
No.
when he
They
has
start
to
with-
press the button.
Sycorax.
Sycorax.
Cigarettes. Oh.
So I think it's similar, where it's just kind of not the point, really. The point was the doctor changed and he looks different,
Right.
blah, blah, blah. And then they're like, Sycorax finale.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I almost would have found it much more solidifying to the, like, it would have kind of kept in the vein of the vibe of the mundane. Like, if it was just like, well, I'm a doctor
Clinical.
just doing my job. It was just that is almost more scary, but it is very heady, and it's like we have to fulfill the caveat of having a monster scare kids.
yeah. I mean, for this is all totally invented for this episode, right? Like, there's not previous classic Who of the Shockery and the Tally or anything like that.
Not that I know.
I didn't think there would be, but maybe.
Where did they come from? The boogeyman thing worked.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then when he explained what he was doing, I was like, then why are you so angry? If you have no emotional connection to what you're doing, why are you so menacing? It's
Hey, it takes a certain person to be in the job of genocide, okay? So
right. Well, maybe that's just their demeanor. It's like that Kids in the Hall skit where the guy couldn't stop sounding like he was sarcastic. It's like, why does everybody think I'm sarcastic?
Well,
No, I really want to come to your party.
And what's always hard with like time traveling villains, well, I don't know if the Shockery time travel, but they seem pretty advanced if the Gallifreyans are afraid of them, is like, why attack Earth now? Like, there's the Next Generation episode where like Picard does something and it creates a spatial rift that ends up like keeping humans from even evolving. Like, you know, like if you're gonna take out humanity, do it when it's easier. Don't do it when there's 7 billion of
Right.
us.
Go back to the amoebas.
Yeah.
Or,
But, you know, that's not the point of this show.
yeah.
back to the
Yeah.
amoebas.
But
Yeah.
that's the thing. It's just, I know we're a broken record about it, but there's just so many small missed opportunities that could send this great show into like just everybody would love it. You know, and I think it's these things that they miss that keeps it at sort of like, that's not my type of show. Because there's plenty of shows that aren't people's type of shows where they say, you know, it's not my type of show, but I started watching it and I loved it. And I think it's what keeps this show at bay from kind of like getting to that level past just its niche audience, even though it's a huge niche audience.
Well, and even like I think all of us at this point, when we were watching it live, like felt that it was off, right? It felt like these aren't episodes we've gone back to. Like these aren't, you know, favorites.
I don't think the Shockery
saying...
can travel through time.
Okay.
I think they're at a current point in their timeline
where they could do this.
And they're saying, look, this new species is coming up and they are aggressive, they are dominating, they take over everything. They're just a plague. And so we're going to stop them now. So I don't think they came back from the future. They're just an advanced race that's traveling through space doing this stuff. And so they're reaching Earth at their timeline. This is their time.
They know that the humans will go on to, because at this point...
No, they go around and they eliminate pests and all that kind of stuff. And so they came across Earth, monitored it and go, look how aggressive we are with all our wars, all our inner fighting. What are they going to do when they reach the stars? Look, we're now
that's what
going
the
to the
monitoring
moon,
was
sending
for?
things to Mars. We're going to start coming out to colonize. They're like, no, we can't let them come. They're just going to come with all of their fighting and
I thought the doctor had a line about humans going. Maybe that's just what the doctor was like inferring. Yeah, because they would do this. That's why the Shocker's here. Yeah, sure.
Okay, so this is that part that I wanted to give you guys some explanations of why this was not great. I'll give you some understanding of why the Shockery is like this. So the actor, Steven Berkoff, was very difficult to work with. They had originally written more for him. This is a rumor. This is what I found in my research. He intentionally screwed up lines, made takes unusable. So what they had in the broadcast of this episode was the best that they could cobble together from the time he was on the production. He was just fighting with the director at every turn, it seems.
Dang.
It does seem, now that you mention that, like the dialogue, the way that it is kind of stilted and repeated, and like you're trying to stretch material. I mean, I can't, like, Eugene, do you know more about the timing? Like, was it day of your filming and you get to the end of the filming day and you're like, man, we did not get these pages. What are we going to do? Like, write something now and let's shoot it? Or do pickups? I don't know, because that TV schedule has got to be hard.
I know that this was in the last production block, and this happened to be the last episode that they were shooting, and I'll read you what I have here. Berkoff proved difficult to work with. He repeatedly went against the wishes of the director, in some cases just plain refusing to do what he was told, deliberately ruining takes, sometimes by reading his lines as badly as possible, and had several temper tantrums. Virtually all the footage they shot featuring Berkoff was unusable, and the ending as broadcast is all they could cobble together from few scraps that they were able to salvage, plus some pickups filmed later with Karen and Arthur.
Yeah.
As well as some shots of Berkoff, which allegedly were taken when the camera was left running between takes, because even the film footage of Berkoff walking across the floor could not be used.
Wow.
Berkoff or Jergoff, am I right?
To go through, as an actor, to go through like the makeup process and the audition process and getting cast, like a lot of work to...
Maybe he was drunk.
Actors are weird.
Yeah.
Well, that's too bad.
Yeah, and
I think that hurt the episode, so I wish they would have done just a computer voiceover.
Yeah.
The whole Star Trek amoeba thing there.
Let him have his parts, and you could add just another cube floating, talking.
Yeah, really.
Yeah, because when the doctor says that that's just a hologram, and he says it's like talking to a propaganda poster, and I go, then why waste your time? Just fix the problem.
Right.
And I mean, even beyond contractual, like the BBC, I'm sure, has relationships with a lot of different actors and producers. And, you know, it's hey, you do this, so that way that person can do that. And then we'll, you know, scratch your back, you scratch mine type of deal.
Yeah, because in the original script, it wasn't supposed to be a hologram. It was just supposed to be more like he was supposed to be there.
Debatable. Wow.
Yeah.
Then I wonder if they came up with that as a possible reason that they were able to cut around things. Then
I think so too, because the rumor is also that the sonic screwdriver was put in there to fix the problem after the fact.
Okay. Well, that also helps with my my belief that they did leave a bunch of people on the ship to blow up in their haste to get out. Yeah.
And then also too, the other thing, okay, I'm jumping ahead a little bit, about, oh no, the alien stopped everyone's heart. What should we do? It killed them. Their hearts are stopped for at least 10 minutes. Well, we'll just start their hearts again. Oh, okay.
And they'll stand up on the street.
And then, I just had a heart attack and died. That's stank.
Yeah.
And, you know, it was just, well, they flicked the switch off. Well, flick it back on. Oh, okay. It was those two things that I've been talking about are just like pop the balloon for me for the whole episode. But
yeah, but I think that rumor helps explain why that ending is so rushed.
Sorry, just now, yes, even more, because I also felt like the next on was really long. I'm like, why is this next on so long? And explaining like more about the angels and how they get their time energy, probably because the cuts that they made the story too short in that part. Like if they were expecting, you know, more conversations between the Shockery character and the doctor and everybody, but it all just had to get lifted. So to fill out your time, you just make that that next on longer because the rest of the act breaks were probably already pretty well set, like,
Right.
story wise. Interesting. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, Eugene.
That also could explain the droid. That's why the droid had no plot. It could have been all interacting with the Shopkri.
Yeah.
Oh, you mean the little girl?
Yeah.
I wonder, yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you for that, Eugene. That is interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it helped me in my second viewing of the episode. I was like, oh, I see.
Yeah, now I want to go back and watch that section.
At least it's short.
That's true.
Is that guy still alive?
I was thinking the same thing. Do we have to
I
worry?
think he is.
Oh,
Damn it.
I know.
Somebody go kill him.
No one will say anything bad about him.
We'll send John Rambo to finish the job.
Yeah, but I mean, if he was dead, we could say all the bad things.
And watching this, using the Sonic was such a, Deus Ex Machina type of thing. It's just like, whoa, without the Sonic, you would have no ending. This just seems so out of place that I came up with a idea because we all know what TARDIS stands for. So I think what Sonic is also an acronym standing for solution once needed, instantly contrived.
I love it. That's a t-shirt.
Guys, Etsy shop. Oh my God, our podcast needs an Etsy shop. We have a designer right there.
From our first episode, we've been talking about t-shirts.
Josh, what are you doing with your time? Obviously, you aren't using it wisely.
Well, I'll put that's next on my list.
Yeah, that's what to do.
I think we should definitely use Matt Smith's Sonic for that one for sure.
Oh yeah.
The Doctor uses the Sonic to alter the cube's signal, sending an electric shock to restart the hearts of all those affected. This creates an energy backlash on the ship, and they escape just before it explodes. Back home, the Doctor plans to leave the pawns to their daily lives, but Brian says they should go with the Doctor. How many get this chance? However, he will stay home because somebody needs to water the plants. But he tells the Doctor to bring them back safe.
It's like in Scream, the movie, when you say you'll be right back. Like, no, you'll never be right back. You're the next person to get murdered.
What could go wrong?
Everything.
It'll be okay.
Yeah.
It also reminds me of Battlestar Galactica. Who was ever doing the opening recap is the one that's going to die on the episode.
Yes, that is so true. Oh,
Really?
I didn't know that.
caught
she's-
that. I never caught that.
Cat's
That's not
dying?
true.
That's so sad.
Spoilers.
Yeah. If I ever decide to get around to Battlestar,
What's that, 10 years, 15 years old now?
listen, there's a very long statute of limitations on this.
But this is a whole arc of Brian during this one episode of Brian starting off with telling them, you can't just go off like that. At the beginning, when the Doctor was going to take them somewhere, and then his finding out all about the 7 weeks and how long were you gone and what happens to your companions. And then this end part when they can't decide which life they kind of want. They can't give up the Doctor and they can't give up the real life that they're building. And it's Brian saying, no, go while you can.
Was it Dinosaurs on a Spaceship when he also got his big story arc? Like, he shouldn't even be home. He should be vacationing.
Yeah, he should be in Egypt somewhere. Yeah.
Well, he must have taken Amy with him on his travels so she could write about it.
No, there you go.
Or he was ghostwriting. There it is. So that he...
And you know what? Thinking
Yeah.
back to that, it doesn't make sense that Amy is a travel journalist at the same time they're talking about they've just been home this whole time.
Okay,
So what is she?
let's not
Wait,
open
wait.
up that can.
All right,
of worms.
let's... Yeah.
But one good thing I will have for this particular section that we're in is that when the Doctor is talking about going to do his thing and swinging on swings, the camera holds on Brian.
Yeah.
And I like that we see that contemplative moment
Right.
of it. I think for me, I'm projecting onto him that he's like, is the Doctor really going to take care of Amy and Rory? And am I okay letting them go? Am I okay being home base? And then he says, go ahead, you need to go with them. I can water the plants. I like that we have that moment with Brian before he says it.
Yeah.
There's a part of me that thinks Brian knows they're not coming back. Maybe not this time, but he knows in the end that they won't be coming back for whatever reason.
But he probably, with the sentiment that something were to happen to them, they'd be doing what they love, or
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah,
And
they have
I-
to do it, but he's being a realist about it and knows that, especially the way the Doctor tells him that some of the people die.
And I like the lines that are written for Brian. Go with him. Go save every world you can find. Who else has that chance? I just
Right.
really enjoyed that.
Yeah. So as they are going back to the TARDIS, Amy has a line, I didn't write it down exactly, but she talks about what is a cube anyways, but the power of 3. And in that YouTube video with Chris Chibnall, at the very end, he kind of alludes to he came up with that idea and wanted to have a story with it for their final season together. So I think this is definitely one of those episodes where the writer had a great idea for Q being the power of 3, being a neat like alliteration to Amy and Rory and the Doctor, and then fit the story to get to that line.
And honestly, the whole episode, I was like, why wasn't this just called the slow invasion? And then when they said that line, I was like, oh,
that's why.
Yeah.
Damn.
Well, it's also funny that I think this episode is the last one that Arthur Darvill and Karen Gillan filmed because of the production schedules.
Oh, really?
So it was a goodbye.
Yeah, that scene where they go into the TARDIS with all 3 of them and then they close it. They said that on the opposite side of that door, as soon as they closed it, they were crying, all 3 of those actors.
Oh, babies. Endings make me sad, even when I'm ready for them.
Yeah. Switching things slightly to before this, when Kate and the Doctor have their little moment before the Doctor goes to have dinner, which is another finalizing moment that the Doctor is going to dinner because he doesn't normally do that. Kate kisses the Doctor and the Doctor salutes her again.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed that. And then the track playing as we transition from the Tower of London to Amy and Rory's home is Can I Come With You? And I thought that was very fitting for this moment.
Yeah, it showed. I recognized it much earlier on.
What I get from that last line about the power of 3 makes me feel that this episode should have been earlier on in the season.
I agree with you.
Before they did a lot of their things. Because I understand, yes, they're all together, we're going to end that. And I understand that dichotomy of the irony of what you expect and what happens. But this one seemed like a good point to then continue on some of the episodes before the final, knowing that they're going to end soon because they've had the discussion near the tower and saying we're thinking about leaving. But it just felt, I wish it was done a little bit earlier in the season.
I guess they were looking at it as a bit of a look back, like the power of 3 accomplished all that we've seen. We didn't know that, if that was their intent. Again, like a lot of times what they present is not what their intention was, so we feel kind of conflicted about it.
But everything in this episode could have been the first episode of a season, because it gives you a little backstory at the very beginning, the quick, this is what's traveling with the Doctor's like, but then there's the 1 year that he stayed with us, and they also have that scene on Tower saying that, no, I'm not running away, I'm running to things, and all of that. So it explains a lot. So it feels like it could have been the setup for a season. And then we're going to see their adventures knowing that this is going to end soon. Just has that,
I think it's harder emotionally at this point in the story. I'm not saying you're incorrect, but I'm saying that I feel like when you see the end of this episode, like, okay, they've been hinting at it for a while. I really think it's time now. Yeah,
it feels like that line should have happened when Rory became an official companion. Now you have 3 people in the TARDIS. That's what it felt like. You should have had the power of 3 in that season, maybe.
Yeah. Oh well.
Yeah. Anyway, woulda, coulda, shoulda is our new thing at the.
I did, going back to, just because we're talking about numbers now, I did like when he mentioned the 7 and the number sides of a cube, and the 7th being the inside. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Oh, and we forgot to mention the fish fingers and custard when they're waiting.
Oh yeah.
Right.
We forgot.
we did forget to mention when he kept calling that guy glasses. I got a kick out of that.
Yeah, speaking of that, I'm just going to go through the cast and we'll take it from there. So Mark Williams comes back playing Brian Williams, and we mentioned him before in Dinosaurs on a Spaceship, and I'm just going to mention here that he plays Arthur Weasley in the Harry Potter franchise. Gemma Redgrave plays Kate Stewart. This is her first appearance as an actress on modern Doctor Who, and we will see her again. She has a lot of UK work in television, and she some notable ones. She plays Evie Wilcox in Howard's End with Anthony Hopkins. She is cousins with Natasha Richardson. She's the niece to Vanessa Redgrave, and her grandfather was Sir Michael Redgrave. So she comes from a very acting pedigree family. Stephen Burkhoff plays Shakri. As I mentioned, he usually plays Eastern European villains. He was Detective Constable Tom in A Clockwork Orange, Orlov in Octopussy, Victor Maitland in Beverly Hills Cop, Badovsky in Rambo First Blood Part 2, Hagath in Deep Space Nine, Season 5, the episode Business as Usual, and Captain Steve Into in UFO. Selva Rasalingam plays Ranjit. He's Rory's coworker that wants to have him as full-time. He plays the psychiatrist in Torchwood. I forgot the name of the episode he was in. He's been in Skyfall, The Mummy, and Prince of Persia. Alice O'Connell plays Laura. This is the person that asks Amy to be a bridesmaid, and I didn't really notice anything she was in. Yeah, kind of. Peter Cartwright plays Arnold Underwood. He's the first patient we see that gets taken by the gas masky twins. This was the last thing he did. He passed away a year later. He plays Elphias Doge in Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix. David Beck and Daniel Beck play Orderly 1 and 2. Daniel Hartley plays the unit researcher, aka Glasses. Andy Evison plays the lab technician. Julian Gillard plays the scientist, and this is his first acting gig. Richard Highgate plays the body. He was the one that they roll away on the gurney, the twins. He previously worked on Asylum of the Daleks as a Dalek and will continue to work in Doctor Who going forward as other things like monsters and stuff. Brian Cox plays himself. He is a particle physicist and professor at the University of Manchester. He worked on the Atlas experiment at the Large Hadron Collider at CERN and was on the Science of Doctor Who special.
Forgot about that.
If you see him, you'll know it's him. He's got like longish hair, but like in a shaggy look. The next people I'm going to mention play themselves as the news reporters or newscasters. Matthew Amaringwala, Karen Brady, Nick Hewer, Sophie Raworth, and Alang Sugar.
I want to know where Trinity Wells is.
I know when we saw that big montage, she wasn't there. It's a shame. The other thing that I wanted to note that Chibnall was a fan is a fan of UNIT from the classic Who, so that's why he wanted to bring UNIT back into modern Who, like more of a presence. That's why bringing the Brigadier or Kate was
I believe
more...
you mean UNIT?
Yes, UNIT.
Auburn, along the lines of what you were talking about, we were talking back to the point of the actor playing the Shikari being difficult. I found it weird that when we first saw him, he was already in the scene. Like there was no, usually when a character is introduced, especially if they're a surprise, it's like a wide shot. Like you at least get some sort of geography on where someone is standing, who they are, and then they enter the scene. He was like already in the scene once it started. So yeah.
Yeah, and now thinking like all of the close-ups, that I think, oh wow, that's great acting, but that's probably like the only things they had.
Right.
Oh, if you ruin the wide shots, that's why they needed to pick up with the Sonic at the other station where it's just the Doctor and Amy and Rory, so you don't see the Shikari. And yeah, the idea of making them a hologram so you can just disappear. I'm sure they patted themselves on the back when they came up with that one.
Yeah, because that just happened on screen for me. I have it playing on my television now, and it looked like the same exact shot that we were seeing of him just flop, and it's just like just get rid of him.
You got to do what you got to do.
Yeah,
you do.
After hearing that, they made it work.
Well, yeah, I mean that's the thing. It's just like maybe they did an Oscar-winning job of revisions and reshoots on that, or Emmy-winning. Sorry.
Yeah.
After, right. The world may never know.
All right. So the power of 3. Who is this episode good for? Or more specifically, this episode is good for who? A new viewer, a casual viewer, a fan of the show, or a diehard?
I gotta say fan. It's you have to know a little bit about the show to know what the character moments mean, and that's pretty much all this episode has. So fan.
I'm gonna say casual. I think it's better if you know what Brian just said, but if you don't, there's just some. It's just a fun episode. You won't be disappointed in the end because you don't really expect much by that ending. So it's just like, because there is a lot of fun stuff in it, and there's a lot of good acting and a lot of heartfelt stuff and a lot of comedy, and then the ending is just like, wait, what? Oh, okay, huh? But you don't really invest yourself in it too much. So I feel if they just fixed the way they saved the people who had a heart attack, they just came up with something just more clever. It would have made, I would have been able to be like, the other thing about the character of the Shikari, I would have been like, all right. But those two hits were just like, wah, wah, as opposed to just, wah.
Yeah.
I like that.
I was saying that a lot of this is similar to a season opener, which is usually good for a new viewer. But because of the ending not living up to what it's been going on, because most of this episode I really like, and the ending just falters. So I'm going for casual as well.
I feel like you guys are gonna be so mad. I'm actually gonna go New Who on this.
Ugh!
I knew it. I knew Brian wouldn't like me anymore. Because you guys all know the story of me and Amy's Choice. Wow, almost lost that.
I was like, what are you doing?
I was thinking. Sometimes it helps me if I don't look at you.
You can't even look
I
at
get
me.
smarter when I look away from you guys. I had no idea what the heck was going on in Amy's Choice, but this gave me similar emotional vibes to that episode, which ultimately intrigued me to go back and figure out what the heck was going on. So that's why I'm choosing this. I agree with you guys that the whole plot is just worthless and terrible, but I think a person like me would be too curious about the rest to really hone in on it. So now maybe on second viewing they'd be like, oh, okay. But yeah, so I'm gonna go New Hewer. Shake things up a little bit.
I like that one. The New Whoer.
New Hewer.
I do appreciate everything, Heather, that you said, and if this is able to get somebody to start watching Doctor Who, then yeah, that's great that this
More power
episode could
to
do
it.
that. Yeah. But I think I'm gonna go and agree with Brian on this is probably best for fans because it is a bit of a recap of Amy and Rory, and we're also getting that emotional closure coming soon with them. And yeah, I mean the next episode is their last episode, spoilers, so yeah, I think fan, but I don't think it's like, especially knowing some of the things, Eugene, that you said about the ending, I think I could forgive it a little bit more. So I don't think it has to go into a Die Hard. Like, it was enjoyable, but yeah, there's a lot to know before we get to it, so fan for me.
So this is where I am in a dilemma because there's a lot of stuff I like in this. As mentioned, the ending is very rushed and not good, and it suffers because of stuff behind the scenes. But I can forgive that because I'm a fan and I do the research. But there's still some good stuff in here that I'm leaning toward New Viewer on this, just because of the funniness in the beginning and and the fact that Brian loves it when we recommend this for New.
That'd be a great GIF.
Yeah, there's a lot that this episode is very mixed. It's a very mixed bag, but I think, like Heather, you kind of convinced me that you can get sort of intrigued enough by why. You're going to ask questions of why by the end of this. And if you don't know that this is going to be the next to last episode of Amy and Rory, you're going to be like, I have seasons to watch of these two going with the Doctor.
I mean, really, this is almost like a reverse trailer of their adventures with the Doctor.
I know, that's the weird part. Yeah, I think my recommendation for a new viewer is you will be able to enjoy it without the baggage that we have as fans.
Yeah.
I like that.
So that wraps up The Power of Three. Thanks for listening. Stay safe, everyone, and we will see you next time when the future becomes the present.
You've just listened to an episode of Who Knew?
Our wonderful theme music is by Michael Grady.
Find him on Facebook at The Universe Explodes.
All our episodes are engineered by Auburn.
You can find him at auburnbinkley.com.
You can also find this show in several places.
Follow us on Twitter at Who Knew Podcast.
Subscribe, review, and listen to us on iTunes and Stitcher.
Or our YouTube channel, youtube.com/whoknewpodcast.
All our episodes are on whoknewpodcast.com.
Visit our Facebook page. Please leave comments, reviews, and click like to help support Who Knew Podcast.
To listen to our show on your Amazon Echo device, enable the AnyPod podcast skill. Ask AnyPod to play the Who Knew podcast
This podcast is inspired by Doctor Who.
The longest running sci-fi show in history.
And especially the revival, spearheaded by Russell T. Davis,
Thanks to Russell, Sydney Newman,
Verity Lambert,
Ron Grainer,
Delia Derbyshire.
And all those involved in the adventures of our favorite Time Lord.
your work continues to inspire and entertain.
Yep.
Yeah.
We heard that.
Now it's a party.
Yes, me and my seltzer water.
I think Eugene froze.
Oh,
Oh, it looks like he's about to sneeze.
Yeah, it does,
Yeah, right.
doesn't it?
I kind of hear him.
yeah, I hear something happening.
He's struggling.
Eugene, you're kind
It's
of
like
frozen.
It's
If you
like
need
waiting
to-
for a. We are literally waiting for a box.
I'm happy.
He's probably. Oh, yeah.
There he
Oh.
goes. So some leave, some die, some lie out.
You win the day.
Maybe. Are you?
Yeah.
Brian's frozen. Oh, there you are.
Oh no, he's back.
No, I just wasn't moving.
He's just still.
We're so close.
So close, yet so far.
That sounds like a song. You should write a song like that, Heather.
All right, I'm on it.
Come on. Then my eyes will just adore you.
Oh, can I use that?
Feel free.
Yeah. Eugene.